Dr. Anupama, are you there? So good morning all. So we'll get started with our event dot at 10:30. So uh, I would like to first tell Dr. Vidya Shekhar, who is a professor in the Department of Periodontics, ITS Ghaziabad. She will be rendering the welcome address. She did a BDS from MCOTS Mangalore, MDS from AB Shetty, Mangalore, and she's got a teaching experience of more than 13 years. And the thing here is she is the treasurer for the upcoming 14th ISPRP National Conference, which is to be held at ITS Ghaziabad. So she'll be welcoming all and she'll be highlighting on the conference, the upcoming conference. So I invite Dr. Vidya to give the welcome address and talk a bit about,
Dr. Manu.
yes.
Thank you so much. A very warm Sunday morning to all of you. As we all know, the interdisciplinary dentistry is now the main focus in all aspects, and it combines the art and the science. And there can be nothing better than Dr. Chikoy Wang telling us about the art and the science of direct composite restorations. I welcome you, Dr. Chikoy Wang, for this wonderful webinar which has been organized on the Sunday. To tell you about the upcoming ISPRP National Conference. It is going to be held at my institution, which is at ITS Muradnagar at Ghaziabad. This is a college at Uttar Pradesh. This is the 14th ISPRP National Conference of 2024 with a main focus on regenerate, restore and rehabilitation. And I invite all the faculty and the postgraduate students from all the colleges to participate in huge numbers for this particular conference, because that would lead to an amalgamation of so much of scientific knowledge, because we have star luminaries with us, with star speakers who are going to speak about lovely topics on perio, prosto, as well as conservative dentistry. And we look forward to many more scientific presentations from the postgraduate students in terms of e-posters as well as paper presentation. The registration is up to early bird registration is up to 30th of April, around 4750 for the postgraduate students. And I would request all of you to encourage your postgraduate students for early bird registration. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Man.
Thank you so much, Vidya. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Anupama Rao. She is an additional professor, Department of Periodontology, Annapaya Dental College of Annapaya University in Mangalore. She has multiple publications to her credit, and she is a co-PI in a DST-funded ongoing project worth 23 lakhs, and she has multiple institutional and other seed grant projects at credit. So I welcome Dr. Anupama, who will be moderating the session by Dr. Wang. So thank you, Anupama, for joining us early this morning. So Anupama, I would request you to introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Manuel. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, Anupama, you're audible.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Chikoy Wang. Dr. Chikoy Wang is he did his BDS and MDS from R. Ahmed Dental College. He's a professor and HOD in the Department of Conservative Dentistry and Endodontics, Buddha International Dental Sciences and Hospital, Patna. He has multiple publications and has been invited as speaker in many conferences. He has conducted multiple workshops in direct interior and posterior composites. We are all eager to hear you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Anupama. Dr. Chikoy Wang, you could share your screens. We'll start with the event, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. My screen is not coming.
It's okay, sir. We have some time. We'll wait. It's not yet come, sir.
No, the ma'am's screen is there.
Okay, okay. I will stop sharing, sir. You can try sharing the screen, sir, now.
I'm sharing it, but ma'am's screen is coming. So, okay
Yeah.
now?
Yes, sir. It's okay now. We can see your screen, sir. It's full screen.
Okay.
You're ready to go, sir.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank um, Dr. Thomas and the organization for giving me this opportunity. This is a new forum, and I may not be knowing most of you all. So before I start, I'd like to say good morning to all my seniors, my colleagues, juniors, and students. My composite restoration is something which is very close to my heart, and whatever will be my presentation, it's the accumulations of all my experiences and failures that I've learned through the past many years. So before wasting time, I would like to go straight into the topic, and let's start. Composite restoration, like any other restorative dentistry, is an art and a science. Uh, Regarding the scientific aspect and the protocols, there are tons and tons of literature on the behavior of composites, the problems of composites, what are the ways to do it, the biomimetic principles. Most of us today, uh, we are very well versed with the protocols and the principles of doing a composite restoration. But the problem which was present 10 years back, it is still present today. And still today, it is the Achilles heel of most clinicians. That is how to create or how to emulate the occlusal anatomy of posterior tooth. Before I move forward, am I audible, right?
Yes, sir. You're audible. Your screen is everything is going good, sir.
Okay, fine. So, as I was saying, simply because there are very few literature and textbooks where there is a guidelines of how to proceed with the composite restoration with the material to create or emulate the structure. And the second problem is many of us are well versed, or many of the clinicians knows that even after a hard work, when we create the anatomy, everything vanishes off the moment we'll try to adjust the occlusion. So the frustration is from both the side, while doing and after doing. The problem is whenever we see the occlusal anatomy, the structure is so complex. Most of the students and the clinicians don't know where to start, how to proceed, because there are no guidelines. Now, usually in all my live presentations, this goes very well. These are I usually ask, what are these three painters, this artist? Now, in a webinar, it is not possible. So on the on the left, you see this famous Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, and the middle one is Van Gogh's painting, and the third one is our great Indian Maqbul Fida Haq, his painting. Now the problem is, I usually ask the question, what is the fault with these paintings? The fault with these paintings are that they are not original. So these are all fakes. Now these fakes are so original that it becomes very difficult to distinguish between which is a fake and which is the original. There are schools in Europe and there are schools in Hong Kong. They teach you how to create these fakes. And it is not easy. They are taught the philosophy of the painters, the materials with which they used to work, their thought process, and the technique. So when they learn the masters, their techniques, their procedures, then only they are able to create this masterpieces. So for us, if we have to emulate the tooth structure, we have to learn from the masters, and the master is our nature. So like, if very few of us are very well versed or very creative or very artistic. Now art, of course, up to a certain level can be taught, but beyond that, it is not possible. But up to a certain level, it can be taught. Like if I ask you to suddenly draw a lifelike eye, so it's very difficult. But if you follow the steps, you can reach certain level. So therefore, in the journey from the pictures that you can see from above to down, you can reach the destination. Now, there are many ways to reach the destination because it is not a science, it is an art. So before I proceed forward, I would like to say that the technique or the direction which I will guide you all is not the only direction. This is the direction which I have felt comfortable, or I have learned, and I have been able to create or to emulate the tooth structure. So there can be equally many other teachers, many other doctors who can reach this with a different technique. So first of all, I'm not going to argue, or I'm not going to say that technique is wrong, because none of the art technique is wrong. As long as you reach the destination, it is fine. So today I'm going to share with you all my journey, how I have proceed forward. So as we always, in today's generation, we say that we want to see to believe whether it is possible or not. So for all those who are new, who doesn't know me, so I just want to share with you not the main work, just my day-to-day, everyday work, which I take with my mobile. Even you can take excellent photography with mobiles. So these are the works which I almost take photographs and do day-to-day in my clinic. The proper photographs will be there in the end. So this is just for your vision or for your eyes that to emulate to structure is possible. So these are the pictures taken by the mobile in my clinic, which I frequently keep on doing. You can see how you can achieve to a certain level. You can create a lifelike composite restoration. So whether it is premolars or molars, upper, lower, all can be emulated if you follow a particular direction, a particular procedure. There are endless. I'm just showing you some of them to make you believe first that it is achievable, so that you can move forward to the next part. So let me share with you what I've learned or what I've experienced through last 10 years of trial and error method. What I've understood that if you want to create a lifelike posterior composite restoration, 4 things are very important. One is the color matching. Second is the marginal blending. The third is to simulate the anatomy. And fourth is excellent finishing and polishing. In this presentation, I'll be basically focusing on the second and the third. Color matching, there is nothing to learn. We all know how to color match the color. And regarding the finishing and the polishing, it's again a very vast area which requires more of observing than of learning. So I'll focus mainly the main part, where is how to manipulate the composite to create the structure. Basically, to achieve or to sculpt composite, there are 2 techniques available in the market. One is the subjective technique and other is the additive technique. By subjective technique, we mean the wax pattern. So we have a solid structure. From that solid structure, we carve the anatomy out of it. So this is known as the subtractive technique. Typically, what we do in the little bit of which we apply in the anterior, we apply composites and then we slowly bring out the textures and the shape from the composite. These are few of my anterior work done. So in all these 6 cases, one of the tooth is Ellis class 2 fracture. So it's very difficult. I'm sure that it will be very difficult for you to find out which tooth the emulation is done, because the line angle, textures, everything are copied. Even the characterizations are emulated. So this type of emulation in anterior tooth, we require a little bit of subtraction technique. But in case of a posterior tooth, to carve out that anatomy with the help of a bar, the hard composite, it's very difficult. Some can do, I cannot. So these are the pictures taken from Style Italiano, where they show you how to do subtraction technique. It appears very easy. You put your composite on the cavity, inside the cavity, and then slowly sculpt the cusp and the grooves. I have tried it. It's not easy. I could not do it. The reason is, you will come to know why. Because there are 2 important factors. One is composite is very sticky. So when you try to adapt or curve one part, the other part moves along with it. And secondly, the grooves becomes very wide. And when you apply the stain, it looks it looks very, very wide. I will show you how it looks and how it comes when you try to do subtraction technique on a soft composite. The second procedure is the additive sculpting, and this is the most common technique followed by most of the experts in this field. And it's not because that the others are following, it's simply because it is much more easy. It's easy and it is controlled. You can control this whole procedure. So like the wax, drop by drop, making the cusp with the help of wax, making the crown with the help of the wax. The same way you take little bit of composite and build cusp by cusp. So this is in the style Italiano, also known as pizza technique, which I came to know later. But again, there are two types: simultaneous modeling and single cast modeling. Again, I say that I'm not very good in, I'm not a very good artist. So I prefer to do one cast by cast, one by one, not simultaneous modeling. So now the guidelines, the things I'll be covering in this lecture is first, simplifying the occlusion anatomy, and then how to learn, how to draw, and how to visualize the anatomical guidelines. Then the most important part, we just buy composite and we start using it. Very few people know which composite you have to use. Because for that you have to understand the nature of the composite. And another important aspect is the choosing the right instruments, because instruments with which we are modeling in our colleges, those instruments are useless. You cannot sculpt composite with the GDC instruments. And the next is how to create the cusp and the grooves. And once you know how to build cusp and the groove, followed by that, step by step, building up all the cusp in the posterior tooth. And lastly, finishing and polishing of the composite restoration. Now, understanding the anatomy. Now, if you observe a freshly erupted tooth, permanent tooth, you will find that it is very, very complex structure. And thank God we don't have to do our composite restorations in this complex structure. So to simplify it, the cusp are the mountains and the grooves are the valley. So first you simplify it as mountains and valleys. And luckily, as time goes by, when the time comes for us to do the restorations, most of the ruggedness or the jaggedness of the cusp are gone. It is attrited off, flattened, and the mountains converts into valleys, into hillocks. And the anatomy becomes very easy and precise. That is the time when you notice that the cusp and the grooves follow a specific pattern for all the teeth. And it is this pattern which is known as essential lines or boundaries, or I say Lakshman Rekhas. You first thing is, every students and every clinician must memorize this relationship or this structure, the specific anatomy of the cusp groove relationship. So whether it is a mandibular or a maxillary, all the grooves and the cusp, they follow a specific relationship. And this groove pattern we have to memorize. The next part is the ridges. You must remember which tooth has what ridges. That's it. So all the tooth has marginal ridges. Some may have oblique ridge the maxillary first molars, and some mandibular sub will have transverse ridges. And the next is, third part are the fossa area. So all tooth will have a mesial and a distal fossa. It's a triangular area between the marginal ridge and the slopes of the cusp. So these are the three things you must memorize and remember in your head. Now, how to memorize, and the memorization of this relationship, essential lines, can be done through drawing and practice. So, first, let us check the first premolar, maxillary first premolar. The essential line is very easy. It looks like the horn of a cow. Now, how you will remember it? The buccal and the lingual cusp both are equal. So the central groove, draw a straight line. The central groove will be dividing the two cusps and will end 1.5 mm from the mesial and distal side to form the pith. So you draw the pith, connect it, and then make a S-shaped developmental groove, the mesodistal groove, the mesiobuccal groove, and the mesiolingual groove downward. This is a pattern you have to draw and memorize. It's not very difficult. The maxillary premolar. The difference from the artistic point of view is that the central groove is smaller in size, and there either in the anatomy there will be only two cusps, or there can be two secondary cusps. Secondary, I won't say cusp, secondary ridges, separated by the main cusp, separated by a secondary groove. So either structure will be like this drawing, or it will be like this drawing, where the secondary groove will be present. So you have to draw and memorize. It's very easy. Mandibular first premolar. The mandibular first premolars, you must remember that from the occlusal side, the central groove is present at a junction of 2/3 from the buccal side and 1/3 from the lingual side. So the cusp has got a sharp slopes. So when they meet, they form two V's at this area. The mandibular second premolar has got three structures if you start looking it. The most common is the Y with three cusps. The second common is the H-shaped structure with two prominent cusps, buccal and the lingual. And the third is a prominent buccal cusp and a round-shaped lingual, small cusp. So these are the patterns you have to remember. So the difference between the mandibular first premolar and the mandibular second premolar is that in the second premolar, the central groove is not at the junction of the 2/3 buccal and 1/3 lingual. It is, the lingual is slightly larger. So it will be slightly towards the center. So you draw the central groove, draw the pits, and then you just draw the U-shaped structure. So this is the anatomy of the U-shaped pattern. And the H pattern, two prominent cusps forming the H-shaped pattern. And as I said, the Y shape is where there are three cusps. The grooves will form a typical Y-shaped triangle. So you must remember this. Mandibular second premolar, mandibular first molar. The mandibular first molar again, you remember the central groove will divide the occlusal surface into two halves. Next is, you remember that the lingual cusps are two, and the two lingual cusps are equal in width. So from the center, you draw the line and join the central groove. Then once the two lingual cusps are demarcated, then remember that the distal cusp always enters into the gap, the V-shaped gap between the two lingual cusps. So you prepare the V-shaped distal cusp entering into the lingual cusp, and then you do the buccal and the distal. And then you draw the secondary grooves. Secondary grooves is the second stage, the second level. Once you have mastered the simple anatomy, then you can start experimenting with the secondary grooves. Mandibular second molar, remember, it's X. It's a cross. All the four cusps are same, and therefore it's a cross. It's the easiest anatomy and easiest to learn. Maxillary first molar. So maxillary first molar is the toughest anatomy to create, not because the anatomy is tough, more because the vision is the worst. We cannot have a direct vision, so we have to do it in an indirect vision, and that what makes it more difficult. So how to draw the diagram? The way is the maxillary molar is slightly rotated, so I will try to derotate it and do the central groove, dividing the two cusps into the buccal and the lingual surface into half. Then in the maxillary, the buccal, mesobuccal and the distobuccal are same dimension. So there you start dividing the two with a line and reach the central groove. After that, you highlight it, and again, like the mandibular molar, you take a U-turn and prepare this area. And then after that, you create this part, which is the line joining the division between the two lingual cusp and the distal pit. So you join that, and then you join the center. So this is how you draw with the pencil. And now I'll just help you through this video how to do it. And this is something which you have to practice all the time when you're free. So you're sitting in the chamber, not doing any work, you do the sketching. You are sitting in the chair, off time, just practice it once. So this is something which I give all my students before they start their clinical work. This is a preclinical work. They all have to master and do it. This is the mandibular first molar, as I said. The two lingual cusps first, then the distal cusp, triangular fossa, This is how you do the maxillary. Okay. So this is what you have to master first of all. Then now let's try to understand the thing with which we're going to sculpt, the composite. All composites are not same. I'm not talking in terms about the filler content, the nanofillers, the microfill, the hybrid. I'm talking about the nature of the composite, which is of importance while sculpting. First, most of the composites are sticky. Some are less, some are more. So here you can see this composite is very sticky. Now look at this composite. Less sticky. So two things is important regarding that. Composite is sticky, and therefore, if you increase the surface area of contact with the instrument's surface, more will be difficult to manipulate this material. So you have to stop using flat surfaces and you have to shift towards pointed surfaces so that the point of contact between the instrument and the composite is as minimum as possible. This is the rule number one. See, so in this slide, you can see that if you can minimize the point of contact, then the composite will not stick to the material. So you can sculpt it better. The next part is the plasticity of composite. Some composites are viscous, some composites are soft. So by plasticity, from a clinician point, we means that when we curve the composite should be able to hold the design. If the composite is very soft, the design that you have generated in the composite, it will start to fade away. Now through the two, I will try to show you through demonstration. Now look at this composite. I give it a structure and it is holding on it. Morning. So you can see that this type of composite is required, which will has enough plasticity to hold the design. Now you look at this composite.
Start.
So you give it a design, and in a very short span of time, it slowly melts and vanishes off. So this composite, you cannot sculpt your structure with this type of plastic composite. The rule number 3, don't try to drag composite because it is sticky in nature. So if you try to drag composite, it will stick and the full mass will move. You want only one part of the composite to move. So if you want to manipulate composite, you better start learning to push composite instead of dragging the composite. Again, I'll show you, demonstrate to you. You always push composite. So therefore, you can see if you want your composite to listen to you, you have to push it, not drag it. So with that, we come back to the third problem, the problem of the groove, creating the grooves. As I said, the problem with bulk carving or subtractive technique is it's very difficult to manipulate soft plastic composite all at one go. So as I said that this is my condition. I'm not a very good multitasker. So those who can, they are welcome. But for me, one cusp at a time is better. The next is when you try to create those grooves with the help of a sharp instruments available in the market, you will never be able to emulate the original groove. The one you will create will always appear wider in size. The reason is, so this is the natural width of the groove in the tooth. Now this is a GDC instrument, pointed instrument. Now just comparatively, I'm trying to show you. This instrument is almost 10 times wider than the width of the central groove. Now this is exactly a scenario I will try to demonstrate in a wider aspect with the help of the plasticine. Exactly when you try to drag with the sharp instrument over the composite, how the groove expands. So you can see that the actual groove that is being formed is always wider than the width of the instrument. Now, these are the cases where I have put the composite and I've created the essential lines with the help of a sharp probe. This is the probe, which is the style Italiano's probe, very sharp. So even with that, after I created the grooves and I put the stain, you will see what exactly it looks like. See, this is too wide. So what our eyes feels it is good enough, actually it is too wide. So the way to do it is bring the two composite cusps close to one another and get adhered to one another. So the junction that it will be formed will be the actual diameter, and that gap will be accentuated with a finer instruments. The instrument which I prefer to use is not this GDC files instruments. These are all useless composite sculpting use instruments. Just basically they just have to throw them out. They have no use in posterior composites. So what exactly you read? This is a style Italiano probe. This is the GDC condenser. So this is the instrument that you require. This is the instrument I created with the help of the number 15 spreader. This is the numbers 15 spreader, which is inserted into the tube for used for those applicators. And I've created this instrument. So the diameter of this number 15 size, that is 0.01. So that diameter will create see, this is the diameter of number 15 probe spreader. So this only you will be able to create the groove diameter correctly. So cusp by cusp build up and accentuating the groove with the help of a number 15 spreader. So for the students, before they're going to get a grasp of this cusp by cusp technique, I usually tell my students to play first with plasticine. So they create those drawings, larger size drawings, and with the help of plasticine, they cusp by cusp, they build up the structure. First the buccal cusp, then the lingual cusp, then the triangular fossa. So this is how they build up and get a feeling of the procedure of how to do the composite filling. So this is how you help the students, the beginners, to get an understanding what you mean by cusp by cusp build up. So our work starts once the biobase is formed. I am sure most of us know what is the biobase. So biobase is the structure which is formed at the base of the cavity. So this is a base, the strongest base formed by a certain procedure protocol being followed. Once the biobase is formed, so you keep applying the composite till you reach 1 to 1.5 mm from the cusp height. So that will depend again. If it is the cuspal slopes are good, then 1.5. If the cuspal slopes are like, as I said, hillock types, then 1 mm. So once you reach 1 mm from the cuspal height, you stop, put the composite and create those essential lines and then stain them. Now, why I have to do this step? This step is extremely important because when I am doing it on preclinical, I am able to see the tooth perpendicularly. But when I'm working on the patient, I cannot see perpendicularly. So either always see from an angle. So either I will be able to see the lingual cusp clearly, or I'll be able to see the buccal cusp clearly. So when our vision is not impaired or not direct, so what happens is that invariably the central groove position gets lost. So somehow either the buccal cusp will become broader or the lingual cusp will become broader. To avoid this, what you call visual drawback, we have to create those essential lines, for it is the essential lines which will help us and guide us to localize our composites into the specific boundaries. The next is how to sculpt the scarf. This is the most vital step and the procedure. You have to wear gloves, powder-free gloves, or if it is a powder, then wash it with alcohol. Clean the gloves, take a little bit of composite, make a ball of it. Now, with experience, you will come to know how much ball to take, how much is the ball, how much that ball of composite will be able to create the cusp, not less, not more. So with experience only it will come. So first thing that you do is you put it on one of the cusp, and then you follow 4 procedures, 4 steps. First step, for every cusp you build, this is the step you have to follow. First, you have to adapt the ball. Then the next thing that you have to focus is you have to correct the cuspal inclination. So that means the existing cuspal inclination will guide the inclination of this composite. This step will prevent that over contouring of the composite. So once the inclination is corrected or done, the next step is restrict the composite within the boundary. So that means you remove all the composite that has flown or flowed over the boundary. And the last step is, as I said, that if you want the composite to move. So the last step, I want the composite to blend with the tooth structure. So this is the area where I will drag the composite with the help of a brush. With the help of the brush. With the help of a brush, I will blend the margin of the composite with the tooth structure. And this procedure, I'll do it till the margin becomes invisible. So once you master that building of the cusp, after doing say 50 to 100 restorations, next you go towards creating the secondary groups. So there are two ways to do the secondary groups. One is again the subtractive technique and one is the additive technique. I will show you both of them. So this is the subtractive technique where you build the main cusp and then you create the secondary group by pressing it at the junction. So this is the secondary group by subtraction technique. And now I'll show you the creation of the secondary group by additive technique. So you create the main cusp and after that you take another ball, small ball, and you apply and create the secondary ridges. So again, this is the diagram. So if you have mastered this two part, that is creation of the cusp and the creation of the secondary ridges, your work is done. The next is only follow the simple process of cusp by cusp. So the next few slides, I will move fast, just showing you how cusp by cusp the tooth will be done or you have to practice. Maxillary first premolar. Lingual cusp first. Same procedure, apply, contour, boundary, blending. Buccal cusp, then triangular fossa. Maxillary second molar. So the primary cusp, then the secondary grooves, then the lingual stress, maxillary first, molar. So first is you can always see that the essential line is so important. Without creating the essential line, you cannot proceed. Once the essential line is perfect, the rest of the procedure is the same. Cusp by cusp build up. Cusp by cusp build up. So cusp by cusp build up. I'm not going into description. I'm just following first the lingual cusp, then as I said, the distal cusp, then the buccal and the distobuccal cusp. Control staining and it's done. Cross-shaped cusp by cusp. Once you have mastered the essential line, the rest is very easy. So this is just another add-on. Usually I do this technique only and only if the anatomy is extremely complex and the anatomy is available. Now, only thing where I modify is that this stamp technique I can do is because at the last stage, I don't have to do the cusp. The cusps are already built. The only thing that I have to focus is the creation of the grooves. So after the work is done, I just accentuate the groups with the help of the 15 size spreader and put the stain. This technique most of us are know. So the only point that I want to do is, while doing we make a mistake is, after putting the stamp and taking out, we cure it. Don't cure it. You remove the Teflon, and then you accentuate the groove, and then you do the curing. Like, look at, I just want to demonstrate this case. Look at this anatomy. It's very difficult. It is almost impossible to emulate this anatomy. So I prefer to do a stamp technique. So put the composite, take out the Teflon, and after you remove that, don't cure the composite from the Teflon, because you will not be able to do the grooves. So you take out the Teflon, and then slowly with the help of the spreader, you accentuate those grooves and put the stains. And then you get the fantastic results. Finishing and polishing. The thing that I only want to point is that while finishing, don't use a diamond burr, because diamond burr cuts by hammering and by abrasion. So the diamond burr will break the composite at the margins and will create white line. It's a very common thing that you have seen, that while doing the composite restoration, the blending is perfect. It is only while doing the finishing, suddenly this white line appears. This appears because there are many factors. One factor is finishing the composite the margin with the help of diamonds. The diamonds breaks open the composite at the margin and creates the white line. So I prefer to use the 16 fluted TC bar to finish my composite at the margins because it has not given me any problem. It cuts and doesn't abrades. So the result is fantastic. So the polishing they can do it many ways. You can do with uh, the abrasive wheels. You can do with the diamond coated brushes. You can do with a paste. I'm not going on any particular technique. Whatever technique you have masters, you can use it to create the final finish of the restorations. So this is the lovely restorations which will look like. Yes. So with this, I'll just show you some of my clinical cases. These clinical cases are arranged in a mixed order. Some are old, some are new. So from simple to complex. So this is a simple class 1 premolars, upper premolars. As I said, cavity prepared, essential lines done, and then the same principle by cusp by cusp build up, following the 4 principles of adaptation, inclination, restricting the composite within the margin, and blending. So this is how you do it, stage by stage. And the best part is, what I like is the blending of the composite with the tooth structure. This perfect blending happens in this technique. And here the natural tooth structure. Now a difficult case, a class 2 premolar case where there is a chance of undermining the cusp. So the cusp has to go. So this type of cases are very common. And if it happens, first thing before you start the cavity preparation, like in anterior, you prepare a lingual putty index. So in case of molars or premolars, you prepare a buccal or a lingual putty index. So the putty index is created. After that, the caries is removed, cavity is prepared following the principles of biomimetic dentistry. That is the peripheral 2 mm peripheral seal, sandblasted, clean tooth structure all around the cusp. So here you can see that the buccal cusp is gone. So first I will create the buccal cusp with the help of the index. The buccal cusp is perfectly emulated. Then the lingual cusp is done, and then the marginal ridge. Now, whenever you are doing a class 2 restoration, this is the most critical area. Like in anteriors, the incisal is the most critical zone. So in a class 2 restoration, the marginal ridge is the most critical zone, because if the marginal ridge is high, all your anatomy will vanish while doing the occlusal adjustment. So the marginal ridge of your restoration must be at the same level of the adjacent tooth. So, here you can see, I'll show you some of the cases that I've done. See how the marginal ridge is emulated, the curve, the contacts, the marginal ridge, perfectly done. So for that, here is another case. The marginal ridge, you can see the natural marginal ridge emulated. So 3 important steps while creating the marginal ridge. Number 1, selection of the matrix. Your matrix should be such that neither it is below the marginal ridge or it is too high above the marginal ridge. Because if it is too high above the marginal ridge, you cannot see the marginal ridge of the adjacent tooth. So if you try to do this, your marginal ridge invariable will be taller. So you choose a matrix which is just 1 mm above the marginal ridge of the adjacent tooth. There are instruments to guide, like the style Italiano instruments. So these are Fisher guides, marginal ridge guides. So it can pass through over the matrix, sectional matrix, and can distribute the height of the tooth with the adjacent tooth. So once it is formed, you remove it. The next is you have to remove the excess. And the most important next is the creation of the rounded marginal ridge with the help of disc. You have to master how to apply disc and create the rounded filling. So this is the rounded filling that you have to create. And here you can see, I go back to the case, how the marginal ridge is created at the same level. And you can see that the marginal ridge is nicely rounded to give it a natural look. So once that is formed, next is a cakewalk. The essential lines are created and cusp by cusp it is built up. And there it goes, the perfectly emulated tooth structure. So from here to here to here. So the next case I want to show is a case where I'm just same thing. I've already shown you. In case of a mandibular molar, create the biobase, do the essential line. First, the lingual cusp. Here I've tried the secondary grooves, then the distal cusp, then the buccal, then the mesobuccal, and last the distobuccal. It is done. Here you can see the slope, the grooves, the control staining, and the polishing and the finishing. This is a very old case where the anatomy is very less, like the premolar, same way. The lingual wall is gone, so you create a putty and you build up. So this case, I want to show that the anatomy will be decided by the tooth anatomy, not what you have learned. So if the tooth has got very subtle cuspal slopes and grooves, you have to create that subtle slopes. You don't have to create too much slopes. It will be out of the sync, out of the shape. So this is a very minimalistic cuspal slope with grooves. But when it is mimicked, you see the absolute natural look it creates. So basically, your existing anatomy will guide your composite sculpting. So this is a case where this was a case where I'm showing, because this case I was practicing creating the secondary groups. And when I was able to create, I was very happy. So this is very close to me. Maybe 5 or 6 years back, this was done. So now the mandibular, just to show you that T-shape it, very easy. Cusp by cusp you build up. This is a case which is very close to me. This is the case where for the first time, I was able to get the satisfactory staining of the groups. So this gave me very lot of pleasure when I was able to do it. And after this, controlling the group width become very easy for me. So everything is a learning curve. It takes, and learning is not a straight curve; it is a plateau curve. So you learn, and then for a period of time, you become stagnant. You don't improve. But you keep on trying. Suddenly you improve. So here, this is an old maxillary case done. I'm showing you because it's the first case where I was able to emulate the anatomy, and I was so happy doing it. So this case is very close to me. Very simple work, cusp by cusp build up done, perfectly blending, color matching. Very happy. So this is the later work. Later I have done this work. So I have tried to give more subtle secondary groove things. So you can see this experimenting. And here you can see it's much more with extra grooves. And so you create a more natural anatomy. So this is how slowly we have to improve ourselves. And then the premolars you try the last, because it is the toughest tooth to emulate. So these are some premolar cases which I have emulated. The stamp technique, some of the cases. So this is what this case. Remember, if you light cure it before removal of the Teflon, and then you put the stain will be superficial. It will not look nice. So you don't cure the composite. You remove in this case, you remove the Teflon. See, I remove the Teflon, and then I accentuate the grooves, and I put the stain, and then I cure. So it gives me more natural appearance. So with this, I think I'm within the time. The rest is practice. I think I've been able to give you a guideline which will help you to improve on your posterior composite anatomy build-up. And as Thomas Alva Edison says, that we don't fail. So each failure is a step towards the perfection. So we have to keep on trying, which is the most difficult thing available today in the students with the students. The students don't have patience. They try one or twice, and then they come and tell me, sir, I'm not getting it. I don't have the artistic skill. Sir, it's very difficult for me. So please do something. I said, beta, I've been doing it for the last 10 years, and still I'm trying. And after 10 try, you give up. So please don't give up. Keep on trying. One day you will succeed. And it's now the Thanksgiving time. So I always thank my family, because they are the reason for me to live, and my students, because without them, nothing is possible. They are the workers who helps me create, who gives me an opportunity to do my work. And lastly, I would like to thank the organization, and particularly Dr. Manuel Thomas, who gave me this opportunity to come to this forum and share my knowledge. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Anupama, the platform is open for discussion. If you have any queries, we have around 5 to 6 minutes for the queries. Our moderator will chair the session now. I think whatever queries you have, please put it up in the chat box. So depending on time, we'll fix around 6 to 7 minutes and we'll take up the queries. Thank you so much. Over to you, Anupama.
Yes, Manu. Very nice presentation, sir. Sir, we have few queries. One query is about buccal pit. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Nikita is asking, could you explain how to blend buccal pit composite restoration?
Buccal pit, the one on the outside.
How to blend buccal pit composite restoration?
Blending, I said, na? Anywhere you do the composite, first you have to apply the composite, follow the inclination, correct the inclination, and blending is always done by dragging. So the last part is you drag the composite with the help of brush, the tooth composite junction. There how you blend it. So any area, the rule is same.
Okay.
Buccal
Yes, sir.
area, I understand. The buccal area, I have not shown any case. There are cases, but now I cannot show it. I can show maybe in the WhatsApp group. I'll share it. Few buccal cavity cases.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One more question from Manuel. Any important aspect while tooth preparation for proper KO surface blending?
Yeah, the tooth should be slightly beveled, not as beveled as inlay, but very short bevel, very fine bevel, so that the blending becomes much. It should not be like an amalgam butt joint. If it is a butt joint, blending is slightly difficult. So you just do maybe 0.5 mm bevel over the cabo surface liner. So the blending is much better. And the walls. Next is the wall. The wall should be like an amalgam. It should not be converging. It should be slightly diverging. The enamel, not the dentin part. The enamel part should be slightly diverging, because that again comes under the not to do much with the composite blending, but not to do with much to do with the scientific aspects, because the composite doesn't bond so well with the side of the enamel rods. Composite bonds very well over the rod ends. So the enamel wall should always be slightly divergent, so that the composite is landing on the enamel rod area, not on the walls of the enamel rod. So that gives a much more better bonding with the walls. So that has nothing to do with, the blending of the composite. For blending, you just that cabo surface margin tip little bit beveling gives a very good result.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Nishi Singh. Could you tell us some brand names of less sticky composite?
See, I'll give you examples like if you take Shofu, the normal beautiful composite is soft. So they have got beautiful 2. So that composite is little rigid, little hard. So same way, if you use this Colton's composite is rigid. It's very viscous. So I will prefer for the beginners to use the harder composites than the softer ones. But again, the problem with harder composite is that the harder composites blending of the composite with the walls is slightly more challenging. So once you become expert in practicing those with the high viscous composite, I would suggest you to use in the level 2. I will suggest you to use 2, means to create the maximum anatomy with the harder composite, and the marginal area use a slightly softer composite.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is a question from Dr. Apurva Kulkarni. Is
Okay.
there any specific composite brand for such restorations?
No. I will not suggest any brand. People always think it is the composite which creates the restorations. No, the composite is just a medium. You are the person who will be doing the creating the the composite restorations. So you can stick to, you need two type of composites. So stick to the composite, keep on practicing. So one is, as I said, one a little viscous and one a less viscous. So as long as you have this two type of composites. So if I'll put forward like one in between composite, very good is um, I will say suggest is Tokuyama's composite and Shofu's beautiful, and then your tetric in serum. So these are not very hard and not very soft. So to start with, you can start with this three type of composite, and then you can shift to, then you can, with that you can use some harder composites like, as I said, the Coltins and the Shofu's type 2, beautiful 2, I think. So those specific areas, so you must have two consistencies of composite of two different companies. So this will work best with you.
Yes. And Apurva is also asking the stain, any brand name, particular stain to be
Stain,
used.
you can stains, they're available in most of the companies. The Car has got stain, Ivoclar has got stain, then Shofu has got stain. So you can, according to your taste, if you are aggressive, then you can you can buy the brown stain. Or if you feel not that your composite should not have too loud, so you can buy the light brown stain uh, from Shofu. So depending upon your taste, all these companies have stains. So you can choose the stain, a light brown or deep brown, according to your choice.
Okay, sir. And then there is one more question. How to prepare stamp for stamp techniques?
Stamp is a very common technique followed in present in most of the literature. So you you apply a flow over the occlusal surface, and then you uh, adapt the instruments or a mat or a applicator over that flow, cure it and take it out. So that is acts as a index, hard index, and it's known as a stamp. Then you prepare the cavity, do the composite filling according to the biomimetic principles. That is again a separate lecture on the biomimetic principles of composite restoration. So once you do the restoration step by step, the last one mm of the composite you apply all around the tooth, and then you put a Teflon over that, and then you put the stamp. But in some books, it is written that after you put the stamp, the anatomy is reproduced. You cure it through the left on, and then you take it out and put the stain. I prefer to deviate from there. You don't cure it. You slowly remove the Teflon, accentuate those groups with the help of the, as I said, 15 side spreader. Then you put the stain, and then you cure it.
Thank you so
Yes.
much,
So
sir.
go to any Google you go, you just type stamp technique. The technique is very simple and it is available in all most of the uh, sites.
Thank you so much, sir. Anupama, I think we'll end our Q&A session because we are getting late. So
Okay.
thank you so much, Anupama. So I would like to thank the participants, and most of all, I would really like to thank Dr. Chikoy Wang that was spending a Sunday morning with us, sharing his experience, sharing his in detailed experience, so that we all could create lifelike composite posterior registration. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your time. It was really wonderful listening to you. Then I would also like to thank Dr. Anupama, our moderator, our chairperson, again for sparing time and moderating the session. So thank you all participants. So this was a full house. Our capacity was 100. So we've reached 100 participants. So that shows the volume of interest of our participants to the events that we conduct. So thank you for showing interest in ISPRP and to listen to our speakers and to improve your clinical knowledge. Thank you so much, everyone. Before I end the webinar here, I just want to tell you the next month we have a beautiful talk by one of my friends, Dr. Vishwa Chandra. He'll be speaking on PRP, how to prepare and what are its applications in interdisciplinary dentistry. And then, as Dr. Vidya told, there will be the our national conference which is coming up. National conference which is coming up in July, and we have 2 more days for the early bird this thing. So please, I request postgraduate students, faculty, practitioners to come join us for the national conference. And regarding very happy news, we wanted to share because of the hard work of our editorial team, ISPRP journal, that is Journal of Interdisciplinary Dentistry, is now become Scopus indexed. And we would like quality original research articles to be sent to our journal. So kindly keep in mind that our Journal of Interdisciplinary Dentistry has now become Scopus indexed. So thank you everyone for all the support. And regarding the certificate, you fill up the feedback form. The link has been put up in the chat box. So use the chat box, fill up the feedback form, and the certificate will be emailed to you. In case any difficulty not getting the certificate, please message me or email me. I will see what can be done. So thank you everyone. Have a good Sunday, and thank you once more.